Hello, everyone. This is Austin Bellino, the host of the educational podcast, Culture to Grow, where you get to travel the world and learn about different cultures from the comfort of your home, maybe your car, or if you're half asleep, your bed. Hello, everyone. My name is Austin Bellino, your host to the educational podcast, Culture to Grow. And today's topic is all about coffee, since it is a popular beverage that is consumed by millions of people around the world and is often associated with various traditions and customs. I believe even if you are not a coffee drinker, you will still find this episode interesting. Coffee is an important part of daily life, either to take a break from one's busy schedule, catch up with a friend, or get that much-needed energy boost. I myself became a coffee drinker after the birth of my daughter, since I needed a bit more energy to get me through those first 3 sleepless months. In this episode, you can expect to learn some history, traditions, and etiquette, plus the process of ordering a cappuccino in one specific country that will prevent you from looking like a AKA dumb tourist. Hey, we all love feeling accepted, don't we? Now I will let my guests take over and share some examples of the many traditions and customs that are associated with coffee around the world. Enjoy!
Coffee, or bunna as we traditionally call it, is a very popular beverage that is enjoyed throughout our country. And to start off with a little history, Ethiopia is where the first Arabica coffee was grown. And the ancient Ethiopian history, it claims that an Ethiopian goat herder that's named Khalid first discovered coffee around 850 AD. And the original name for coffee came from Kaffa, that is the region in the southwest part of Ethiopia, which is still there. And there's a place named Kaffa in the southern region of Ethiopia. That's where coffee was first discovered in the wild. And unlike almost every other country that are growing coffee in Kaffa grows naturally there. So to talk about coffee and the culture in Ethiopia, it's an important part of Ethiopian culture, and it's often associated with various traditions and customs. And to mention one that is highly associated with our culture is the coffee ceremony. In general, it's just a social gathering that signifies friendship. And it's also like a social event where people discuss on different topics, like topics about the community, politics, and just life. The ceremony, because it lasts for about like 2 to 3 hours. And in some households, it's not common in my home, but in some households, this kind of ceremony takes place 2 to 3 times per day. It's also like very warm and a family event where everyone can participate, even children. The preparation, it's not that grand. It's actually very easy. At first, the coffee beans would be roasted in a pan, and in most of the time, it will be like, to do it traditionally, you have to ground it by hand. You could use your machines as well. And that's how people do it nowadays, since things are getting modernized. But in the old days, people usually ground it by hand, and then we'll brew it slowly in a pottery piece, which is called jabana, on an open fire. And jabana is one of the most precious treasures of Ethiopian mothers. It's like the main thing from the coffee ceremony. And then that's pretty much it. You then serve it with sugar most of the time. In some areas, usually the countryside part of Ethiopia, it's served with salt. And there are areas where people also drink coffee with butter. Most of the time, like 90% of the time, people usually have snacks, and the commonest is like popcorn, and other cereals like kolo, how we traditionally call it, is also served in the coffee ceremony. So, and I think Ethiopian coffee it's very strong. It just can energize you like an energy drink or something.
Hi, I'm Mary from Indonesia. Today I will introduce one of the best and most expensive coffee in the world. The coffee is called Luwak coffee. What is Luwak? Luwak is one of family of whistle. We call it Luwak in Indonesia. How to the process? Because Luwak really like to eat the best Robusta and Arabica coffee berries, they eat the fruit along with the coffee beans. But the coffee beans that the luwak body cannot process are thrown away along with the other food fruits. Then the coffee beans are separated from the luwak dropping and clean it. Then the process is carried out until they become selected coffee beans, which can be enjoyed after they become delicious and fragrant coffee powder. So that is named luwak coffee. Coffee selections, all process is carried out by the luwak itself, which makes the luwak coffee very strong in taste, fragrance. Don't be surprised, guys, because of the color of the coffee is not as black as other coffee. That's why luwak coffee is the most expensive coffee in the world. So if you're interested to see the process, you can visit Bali in Indonesia to see luwak farm and coffee plantation. There's also a cafe, so you can enjoy drinking coffee on the spot, accompanied by view of the cool and beautiful city of Bali.
One thing that you guys have different from here, I guess it's the coffee. You guys have a really water-like-ish coffee, really long, really big, and that you drink like on takeaway, if we can say so. Like you take your coffee, it's in cardboard mugs, and you basically eat it on the go. Here it's not like it. The coffee, it's an espresso, is usually short. You can ask for a long espresso, which it's just more coffee. It's really more creamy, and actually I appreciate it more because in my opinion it's just better. And it's served on small cups, like a mug, and you basically eat it. This unwritten rule is that you should sip it when it's hot. It's in Italy we say, it's this saying, I'm going to say it in Italy, is il caffè va bevuto caldo e sorseggiato, which really means that the coffee must be hot, should be hot, and you have to make sips, like small sips, kind of like that. We don't drink coffee on the go. If we do so, it's really strange. Also, talking about frappuccino, let's move on to the cappuccino. Here there is a really like bad, if you can say, thing about the cappuccino. If you drink or order one after noon, people will look bad at you. It's like because the cappuccino is a morning beverage, if we can say so. So looking at someone drinking it afternoon feels strange, weird, if we can say so.
Coffee in the United States is like everything else in the United States, borrowed or taken from all over the world. I think that the difference between world coffee and the United States is that I think that here in the States we have ethnic groups and places to go and to kind of see and be in other cultures and communities and see how other cultures and community, the importance of socialization with tea shops and with coffee shops. But in the States, we generally have a bigger brand coffee houses like Starbucks and like Dunkin' Donuts. And coffee used to be really more about just getting the job done. Originally, it was Folgers, and you had instant coffees, and it was like a cup of day. And then, of course, Starbucks came and kind of changed the way Americans looked at coffee. Definitely started to go into the younger crowds. A lot of the sweeter drinks that were made kind of targeted high schoolers and colleges. And so when you're in the universities, you really did see a ton of coffee houses. And I actually had experience when I was in university. I worked at a local coffee house. And then when I got out of university, I worked at a Starbucks. And so I was kind of in both worlds and loved coffee. So definitely understanding what coffee means to others is something that I think about. I enjoy the presentation of coffee. I enjoy the morning routine of making and brewing and watching people kind of come in groggily and then being sort of thrown into being awake and involved in what they're doing. I think that Dunkin' Donuts was a place where you were able to kind of just go through a drive-through, where you go to a window and you place your order and you get your order and then you go on about your day. Starbucks Starbucks brought in a come in, sit down, have a cup of coffee cafe style, which is not new in any sense. I mean, there's cafes all over the world, but in America, we just didn't have that until Starbucks really started to push the coffee experience. And then as time progressed, we start to see the hipster or urban hippie coffee shops. And basically, these coffee shops understand the dynamic of what a coffee bean can be, of what coffee experience can be. And they change the dynamic of customers that they had coming in. You had people who wanted taste and flavors and wanted to know what was happening in other parts of the world. And I've had coffees in America. I've had all types of Turkish coffees and Ethiopian coffees. And, that experience, although different when you go to the country, was so interesting and so exciting to kind of understand that although we're very different in a lot of things, this is one thing that people have, coffee and teas.
So what did you think? Did you learn anything new? I love the fact that specific traditions and customs related to almost anything can vary greatly from one country to another and from one culture to another. Learning about culture is a never-ending journey, and I am glad that I am accompanying you on that journey. I hope that you enjoyed this episode, and don't forget to leave a review, share my podcast with a friend, or leave me a comment. Take care, everyone, and bye-bye.